Hello, and welcome back to Ask a Newsworker. Today we're going to be talking about news addiction. News addiction. The idea, the possibility, the potential fact of being addicted to the news. Can you be addicted to the news? Can you be addicted to looking at, watching, reading, hearing the news? Is that possible? I've actually looked this up. I'm not a psychologist, first of all. I'm not an addiction specialist. I'm a news worker. The channel's called Ask a Newsworker, not Ask a Psychologist or whatever. I've looked this up out of curiosity on Google just to see if maybe there was something out there on news addiction. I'm sure there's literature. I'm sure there's been studies. But it's very curious. If you look on Google itself, from what I remember, you don't really see, from the last time I checked, a ton of results that are very clear, like talking about the phenomenon of news addiction in a psychological, kind of clinical sense. Like people who are so into the news that it's hurting them. I don't see a lot of, at least obvious material about that on Google. I didn't check, say, today. Maybe I should have before I did this video, but I've checked in the past. I just found it difficult to find kind of relevant and credible and important information about that, which I found kind of strange. Can a person be addicted to the news? I would say yes, even though I'm not a psychologist, even though I'm not a psychiatrist, even though I'm not a clinical physician or any of these things. I would say an addiction is any sort of unhealthy relationship with anything. Anytime you're indulging in something too much, you're doing something too much, too often, to the point where it actually may be hurting you more than helping you, I would say that, to me at least, is an addiction, or at least is something that has the qualities of an addiction. So in that sense, I would say that news addiction on a level is possible. I would say it's possible to consume the news to such a degree, in such volume, that it's arguably, debatably, not really helping your life too much and might even be bringing you down. Because as I've said in other videos, a point that I will make many times over the course of all the videos on this channel probably, the news focuses exclusively on problems. It's very rare for anyone to open up a news app, for example, and see bright, amazing, reassuring information. It's bad news. I mean, they don't say bad news, they just say the news, but it's generally bad news. Every now and then, like, oh, we made a scientific breakthrough in this and we made some progress here, but it's mostly bad news. So I would say psychologically, looking at bad news, looking at depressing, sad, negative things all the time or too much can be a problem for one's mind, for one's mental health, for one's life. The positives of such a thing is that it hopefully motivates a person to actually do something about the negative, bad, sad thing they're reading about. But in many cases, that doesn't happen. A person will just read the news, get sad, get depressed, get uncomfortable, and that's it. And then they're just walking around with this problem, with this knowledge. And if they do that a lot, to the point where it's giving them a serious anxiety disorder or depression or something else, I would say that's a problem. And I would say that that has some characteristics of addiction. When a person is consuming the news to such a degree that it's making them unhealthy, mentally and potentially physically as well, because there is a relationship between those two things. If a person's mental health slips enough, their physical health will probably follow. If their physical health slips, then certainly their mental health can slip too. There's a relationship there. So for the sake of this video, just to kind of get the conversation started, do I think news addiction is real? Yes. Do I think it's possible to consume the news too much, too high doses, to the point where you're not even really doing anything about it? You're not even doing anything about the news you're getting. You're just sitting in your house or apartment or condo or whatever, just feeling anxious and scared and fretting all the time. You're not even taking action about the things that the news is telling you about. So I'd say that is a problem to begin with. But what do you think? Do you think it's possible to be addicted to the news? Some people would say no. I've seen people in the news business try to claim that no, there's no such thing as news addiction. Any amount of news is fine. In fact, you can never have too much. I've seen people try to argue this, that you can never have too much news, and the more news, the better. The more news you consume, the better. If you're looking at the news all day, that's great. That's actually best for your life and mind. I have a different view, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments, send me an email, and keep watching as we discuss topics like these and more on Ask a Newsworker. Thank you.